1 Corinthians 13, beginning at verse 1. If I speak with the tongue of men and of angels, but do not have love, I become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous, love does not brag and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek his own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. But where there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away. If there are tongues, they will cease. If there is knowledge, it will be done away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will be done away. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, just as I have also been fully known. But now faith, hope, love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. If you haven't figured out, we're going to talk about love. Sometimes our strength alone is not enough. You got to have what you have, but sometimes you need more. And we have something deeper than just doing great things. Look back at verse 1 through 3 for a second. He said, if he speaks with the tongues of angels, but doesn't have love, it's nothing. Gift of prophecy, no love, it's nothing. Faith to remove mountains, it's nothing. Gives all that he has, sacrifices for the poor, but doesn't have love, it's nothing. The strength that we have needs the right foundation, and the foundation we want is the foundation of love. And of course, we're talking about biblical love. This is one of the best single definitions of it, though there are other passages that focus on some other aspects. But this is a good one to memorize if you're into memorizing verses. Love gives meaning to everything. Love, as the old poets used to say, makes the world go round, and there is a lot of truth to that. So before we look at the big feats we're doing and the outward action that we are pursuing, we need to be sure that first the foundation beneath that act is love. Because I don't care how great the act itself is, look again at what Paul said. Let it soak in. If I speak with the men of tongues and angels and do not have love, I've become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge and have all faith so I can remove mountains, but I don't have love, I'm nothing. If I give my possessions to feed the poor and if I surrender my body to be burned, but I don't have love, it profits me nothing. Brother, everything we're doing, if it doesn't have love behind it, it's nothing. People may look at the feat and think, wow, that was pretty impressive. That was a big feat. That was something very few people would do. And God is not impressed if love is not behind it. So love is going to keep us on the right path. And of course, that's the path we want to stay on. So love, it's not our final reward. Now, let me parse that out just a little bit. Love is at the end of it, but love's also at the beginning. And love's in the middle of it. Love is something that weaves all the way through it from beginning to end. It's not just some trophy at the end that after I do all of this stuff, then I'll get love. If that is your concept of love, then your concept of love is worldly, it's contemporary, it's secular, because biblical love, it's the very beginning, and it's on the next stage, and it's on the next stage, and at the next phase, and the next phase, and it just weaves consistently all the way through everything we do. That's what makes our little actions impressive in the sight of God. So the first sign of love is not to be heroic. The first sign of love is just patience. Isn't that interesting? After we get to the end of verse 3, he said, love is patient. And if you're an impatient person, you'll understand that's probably a heroic deed in a manner of speaking. What we have is some active restraint, not rushing another person's growth, not rushing another person unnecessarily. Now, there's a time to hurry in life, and somebody needs to hurry up and get with things. I understand that. But on a deeper level, It's easy for us older people who are 60 plus, who have 40, 50, 60 years of experience of trying to hone the spiritual life, to look at an 18-year-old, a 25-year-old and think, you just need to get with the game. Because after 60 years, you understand a lot. It's a little hard to remember what we actually understood when we were 18 or 25. And then we're probably going to romanticize that memory a little bit and think we remember more, that we were a greater 25-year-old than we actually were. What young people in the growth stage need is somebody to help them cultivate and grow and to be patient with them as they develop, just as we all did too. And this is going to cost us some things. It's going to cost us our comfort, because I already know what needs to be done. 70 years of experience, 80 years of experience sees a whole lot of things. And it's uncomfortable to watch somebody struggle with it. But I can't struggle for them, right? And then it's going to make me have to give up some control. But control makes a lot of us feel kind of powerful, like we're in control. Then we're not going to get the relief. Because when we see somebody struggling, especially somebody we love, we're in pain. Our heart aches for them. But we can't hurry them along. Some people learn slow, some people learn fast. And patience is what a lot of folks need. That's a tough one for us. So patience is not really weakness. I don't want you to think of it as that. It's really self-discipline. Because all of us, when we're in the process of doing something, learning something, developing into a new area we've not been into before, what do we want people to be with us? Oh, patience. It's a good thing when we're on the receiving end of patience. We think people who are patient with us are strong, and so we want to do the same thing. And yet we're going to deal with these unfinished people. And these unfinished people, these developing, growing people, they're not neat. They're a mess. And some of them are really messy. They're not really predictable. And some of them get caught up in all that internet nonsense, and they think they know stuff, and it's just a bunch of foolishness packed up, wrapped up to look like it's something special. And it's nothing but eternal nonsense. And yet we got to deal with it. And impatience is not the way to deal with it. Impatience is usually seen as being grumpy, intolerant, and inconsiderate. And when was the last time you gladly listened to somebody who was grumpy, intolerant, and inconsiderate? Yeah, me neither. We don't listen to those people. And so we bring our love into it, and love sees something bigger, and love's looking for something that's a natural development. Not forced, not contrived, but true, where somebody truly develops to love the Lord their God with all their heart, with all their soul, and all their mind. And it is a genuine love. It is not a feigned or faked love. And so waiting, it's a hard skill to learn. Because some people, like I say, they learn a whole lot slower than other people. And we tend to fancy ourselves as having been fast learners. So we wait. And while we're waiting, we don't wander off and abandon people. That's part of love. Now we could say more, but let's move on. Love's not self-centered. That was basically verse 4 and 5 of our passage. It is kind, it is not jealous, does not brag, is not arrogant, doesn't act unbecomingly, does not seek its own. That's pretty interesting. Doesn't demand an immediate return on the investment. How about that for, I did this for you, now you're supposed to do this for me. I did this, you got to do that. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Love chooses generosity over self-importance. And love is the important thing. It is the love weaving through that relationship that keeps the connections together. That's the important part. So we look at it and we think, am I appreciated or am I loving? We want to ask, am I loving? Am I being nurturing? Am I being cherishing? Am I understanding that who I'm dealing with and what level they're at in their development? We do this in public school all the time. We get a kid that's 6 years old. We go, you're kindergarten, you're first grade. That's really cool. That's good. We don't treat them or expect them to act like they're a senior or a junior or first year in college, do we? Sometimes we miss that on the spiritual level. And one of the reasons we miss that on the spiritual level is we look at the outside, and on the outside, the body's just as tall as ours, and they look like they're grown up. And if they look like they're grown up, we think they ought to be a grown up. And if they're a grown up, they ought to know some stuff. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of folks who are grown up aren't anything more than just kids. in adult bodies. And some people are Peter Pan and Never Never Land and haven't grown up yet, and they'll be 40 and 50 years old and they hadn't grown up yet. Kind of hard to remember that when you're looking at a 50-year-old. And then you have to ask, am I being loving? Or am I looking for appreciation and applause and that kind of thing? So love is going to choose restraint over lashing out. Love is going to be looking over the long-term goal and seeing what can become of this person and then try to nurture that. And it's going to choose forgiveness and let things go instead of fixating on them and making them a perpetual issue. I like the way it was said here. Love drops the stones it could throw. There's your good definition of love. Let's read that one again. Love drops the stones it could throw. That's a great idea. So when self-love or selfishness, however you want to say it, steps out of the center stage and says, no, this isn't about me. This is about somebody else and their spiritual development, then something better begins to take place. Now, here again, this is where patience is going to come in. Is it going to happen as fast as I want it to? Absolutely not. Is it going to happen overnight? Certainly not. It may not happen for 5, 6, or 10 years. I don't know why it is, but there's some people that are kind of like the Chinese bamboo tree. And if you don't know that story, it's a little bit interesting. It's a bamboo tree. They plant it and they water it. And for 5 years, it does absolutely nothing. Go figure. Now, what I want to know was who was the guy that planted that first seed, watered it for a while, and said, I'm just going to keep watering it. And the second year said, well, nothing happened, but I think I'll keep watering this one. And the third year, and the fourth year, and the fifth year, and they just kept water it. But the fifth year, something starts to happen. And it grows at a tremendously phenomenal rate. But it stood there in the ground for 5 years, looking like nothing was happening. But was nothing happening? Or were there just changes taking place on the inside that we could not see happening? And had the farmer lost his patience and got all selfish about it and said, well, this ain't giving me nothing back. Why am I wasting my time? And we'd never see the product of the Chinese bamboo tree. You need to look that up on Google a little bit. There's some fascinating things out there in the world that aren't here in Arkansas that make some really good analogies. So then we're going to have the strength not to keep score. That's on down in verse 5. Does not take into account a wrong suffered. Relationships and reconciliation, they're more important than victory. I don't want to go to my grave counting everything I won and have nobody that I had deep, loving connections with. I want love. I think that's what you want, isn't it? Real, true connections. But when we play the scorekeeping game, it sets up a division. It puts up a wall. People get defensive, and rightly so. Wouldn't you? Every time you did something a little bit wrong, they're just all over you going, caught you. Caught you again. Oh, you say you're a Christian. You're so perfect, but look at you. I remember just 2 months ago and they start listing off all the scores they've been keeping. Now, isn't that nurturing and cherishing? Doesn't that make you just want to say, let's go out and drink coffee? Well, I will if I can put a drop of cyanide in yours. That's not the kind of people I want to be around. Cyanide's probably not a good Christian idea either, is it? So relationships and reconciliation, this is really what we're after. We're after two becoming one. That would be the marriage. But in the body of Christ, we also are becoming one with one another. I believe that's John 17, get down around verse 22, where Christ prays that we would all be one as He and the Father are one. And that means we can't keep score. We're going to let love flow, and it's going to have to flow through all of it. But keeping score does feel like protection. It feels like I get to put up this wall and keep you out, keep you from hurting me. And there may be some truth to that. I put up a wall and keep other people at a certain distance. It is very less likely that they're going to hurt me. But how likely it is then that I'm going to enjoy the benefits of the prayer of Christ in John 17 when He prayed that we all be one. I can't have both. And so Christ set the example by taking up His cross and bearing a burden that was not His and laying down His life freely for a people who did not deserve His sacrifice. So love simply makes room for God to be the judge. As Paul is writing in Romans 14, he makes the point about not judging one another. And that's a good point. Let God do it. That's his business. But this level of love takes a lot of training. Number one, you have to get over any toxic training that you've had, because there is a lot of toxic training out there. And a lot of the TikTok psychology and the Instagram psychology and that kind of nonsense really has divisive, ugly, nasty stuff, actually splitting families, encouraging children to understand that your mom, it's your dad, it's your family's the problem. You need to get them toxic people out of your life and cut yourself off. Satan has such a great strategy there, because if he can get the 20-year-old to say no to mom and grandma and grandpa and cut themselves off from family, then what herd is that kid running with? None. And now who has the advantage? Satan, 100%. I'm like, some of the stuff you watch the devil do is just fascinating. Now, it's diabolical, but it's fascinating. So this level of love takes a lot of training so that we can stop keeping score and keep all our zebras in the same herd. Now, I said zebra because a couple of weeks ago I mentioned the meme where it's this herd of zebras way in the background, and there's one zebra all alone, and there's a lion right on its heels. And it's about which zebra does the lion chase? It's the one that's away from the herd. That's the way it works in the wild. That's the way Satan does it too. If he can split you off any way, anyhow, he'll do it. Now, we've got to deal with those people who are trying to play that game and keep it all together. That's tough. That's hard. So if we get to this level of love, in a sense it carries a lighter load because I don't have to carry all the scorekeeping stuff. That's good. And I'm not going to weaponize the past. That's great. And that's a phase that seems like a lot of young people are going through now. There are no perfect parents. The perfect parent does not exist. Now, I know some people who say, my parents were great. And that is possible. There are some parents that are great parents. But if we can sit down and talk, we can always find out a time or a place or a story where the parents weren't as perfect as the memory would suggest. All parents make mistakes. Parents don't always make the right judgment. And what Satan wants to do is he wants to come along and get inside of young people's heads. I'm really talking 30 below crowd, and go, oh, your parents' fault. Well, if God really loved you, your parents wouldn't, God really loved you, your parents would have, start filling in the blanks. I see Edwin over there kind of grinning, and I got to grin with him because back in my day, and I was in the 60s, and I know you had a harder background than I did, there wasn't none of this crybaby whiny stuff going on in society. How many of your mama said, you want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about. Or how about, I ain't got nothing to do? Well, I'll give you something to do, and the next thing you're doing all the house chores, right? The 60s and the 70s were different times. And the older I get, the more blessed I see were those times. But with love, it ain't going to weaponize the past. My parents weren't perfect. That's a reality. I'm not perfect. That's a reality. We did the best we could. And we made mistakes along the way. We're not going to keep score about it. And so love loosens the grip on yesterday. And that is a great, wonderful sense of freedom where it applies. Then we endure softly. I like the way that's said there. Verse 6 and 7. Doesn't rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. Believes all things, bears all things, endures, hopes all things, endures all things. It doesn't stop caring to protect yourself. And when you care, you become vulnerable. This is what love does. You get close to somebody, you're vulnerable. Something's going to happen. The rubs are going to happen. I don't know how to get close and say, but there's no vulnerability here. Absolutely, there's vulnerability. And it may not always be like an evil vulnerability. I can't help but every time when I get to officiate a wedding, which I do more funerals than weddings, oddly enough, but anyway, you see the wonderful celebratory time. You see the bride and groom, and everybody's all happy. And it is a wonderful time. And they're walking down the aisle. And we know that the vows are going to be for better or worse, sickness, health, and all that, till death do we part. But when you're 20 as I was, and you're standing before the preacher with your bride as I was. You hear the word, but you never hear it. You never really thought, one of us is going to die and leave the other one all alone. That's pretty vulnerable, isn't it? That's a scary thought. But I can't have all those years of happy marriage and all the good memories if I don't make myself vulnerable. And so if I stop caring and I push people away to protect myself, I at the same time cheat myself. There's no easy way through. I can live the lonely, empty life of a recluse and think, boy, I won the game. I didn't let anybody hurt me. But look at all the love and the joy and the happiness they missed too. Or I can say I let people in close. And there were a lot of pains and tears, but look at all the love and the good times we had. You just endure. You don't make other people miserable. That's not the biblical love. If your idea of love is making somebody miserable, you're definitely not building on a King James version. I'll guarantee you that. Love's not blind. We're not pretending like everybody's perfect and you're okay. But we're not saying you got to be Pollyanna and you're naive. We're just saying you're out there. You're dealing with messy people. They've got problems, but you know they can change. Now, sometimes it's less likely than others, and sometimes it's more complicated than others. But my goodness, most of us, if we'll look around, we have seen some people change that we didn't ever think would change. And they did. It can happen. And love sets that foundation. Love is the foundation that underlies it all. It stays hopeful because God is faithful and God's word is powerful. And if a person wants to work with God, it's going to work. So love holds its ground without getting hard, without getting calloused over and indifferent. And that's a challenge for some of us. Because like I said already, indifference does feel a little protective. It does hurt less in some ways. It kind of promises a little bit of safety. But love promises depth. Now, if you can get philosophical with me for a moment, the tears you shed standing by a casket are proof that you had depth of love. If you stand by that casket of the so-called loved one and your heart is cold and no tears flow, I'm kind of wondering what kind of relationship did you really have? Tears and the hurt are proof of the love. So love is the greatest of all of them. That's our last few verses there, especially verse 13 states it quite clearly. So there's a lot of valuable things in life, and those valuable things have an expiration date. Now, I don't mean to say, then you should count them less, but your marriage has an expiration date. I'm sorry, but it's coming to an end. Your family connections, there's an expiration date there. One of these days you're going to die and leave them, or they're going to die and leave you. Your work. I hope you love your work. I hope you have a job where you get up in the morning and you think, yeah, I get to go to work today. If you can do that more mornings than not, you're on the winning side. But one of these days you're going to get old and retire. And that work's coming to an end. Sorry. That's just the way it works. So valuable things have an expiration date. That doesn't make them wrong. You need to keep your eyes open. Love, it doesn't. Love keeps hanging on. Love keeps going on. It's the lasting legacy. Motivational speakers talk so much about legacy. I think they waste a whole lot of time on it. Fact of the matter is, 3 generations from now, nobody's going to care that you were alive. Nobody's going to remember you're alive. You're going to be a name on somebody's family tree, and they're going to mispronounce it. They're going to get details about you wrong because people really don't care that much. I mean, legacy, do what you want with it. But I would say this is the one. Love. Because love definitely, it's going to be what? 1 John 4:8. God is love. That's what we're talking about. An eternity of that. So success is going to be about how well we love. Now don't get too picky with yourself because you're not going to do it perfect. You're human. We all are. And we're going to make some mistakes. That's the way that works. That's all right. Don't beat yourself up to death about it. Just say, okay, I'm going to do better next time. Which is fine. So Paul's telling us to weave love through it all. I don't care if you're the smartest guy in the room. If you don't have love, you're no good. I don't care if you've got faith where you can move mountains, he said. If you don't have love, it's nothing. I don't care how sacrificial you are with your time and your resources. You can even give your body up to be burned. And Paul said, no love? No, you're nothing. But if you have love, that's what people are going to remember. It fades, or hangs in there, long after the details fade. That's what love does. People aren't going to remember so much what you did. Now, we're going to tell some funny stories at your funeral, yes. But you know what they're going to remember 10 years from now? They'll remember how you made them feel. And if they felt loved, that's what they're going to remember. And they'll just say short things like, man, he was a good guy. She was a great woman. And they won't have a lot of stories behind it. But what's going to underline that is just we were loving. So how well are we practicing our love right now? And I'm going to narrow that down. We're about done. If you're married, I'm talking about when you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, when you sit down for supper, however you spend your day, and your mate interact. And I know at different ages it varies. In retirement, you get more time. In the work years, you get less time. I get all that. But that's the first place. You still got kids in your life, grandkids. That's the next place. You got your workplace. That how you practicing. Bring it down to the practical places where you're actually living life and interacting. And I think a lot of us can say, we're doing pretty good. I'm not batting 1,000, preacher, but I'm doing pretty good. And that's what makes a difference. So we're going to have the courage to love. Faith's going to believe, hope's going to look forward, and our love is going to decide how we treat people. Well, that's it. And you know, you believe and wait, there's your hope. But I want to love, and I want to live an ordinary life from love. I'm going to illustrate that ordinariness again, because this is where it's at. It's just when you're sitting there at the dinner table today, and somebody says, pass the salt, please. And you pass the salt with a smile. And they say thank you. And you say you're welcome. And the dinner goes good. And you continue to have a good time. Or you can do it this way. Pass the salt, please. You don't need all that salt. You know that salt's not good for you. What are you doing with that? Right? No. That's not love. You go, oh yeah, I'm doing it because I love them. Let me ask them how it feels. Jeff Dunham does the old cranky guy, and he talks about his wife, and he says she's got a nag cycle. She just gets up on it and rides all over him on nag. Don't be that. Ordinary little things are what we're talking about. This is where the bulk of our life is lived. Love's learned, it's practiced, and we choose it again and again and again. You've been married 15 years, you're going to choose it another 45 or 50. Been married 50 years, you're going to choose it another 10 or 15, maybe 20. We're just going to choose that love again and again. So what would you change if love shaped how we speak to other people this week? How we listen, how we disagree, how we remember. Love. I think it takes a lot of courage. And that's what I want you to be, as a courageous people. And I know some of you to be quite courageous, as we have talked about in this lesson. If I don't know you well enough, that doesn't matter. As long as you have that courage in your daily life, you're doing great. If you haven't started your walk with Christ, then you need to put Christ on in baptism. Our baptistry is ready. We're here to help however we can. All together we stand and sing.